Uh, First of all, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. Grazie mille soprattutto a Cristina per raccomandare il mio nome. So I've decided to talk about two things in the list of objects or subjects that we were offered. Of course, social media has been covered, and Michael has dealt with it extensively. I'll tell you one thing about Michael. When I met Michael maybe a couple of years ago, I was so delighted when I saw his name, because my name has always bothered me because it starts with a Q. And there's no U after it, and in English that's terrible. So I met this guy. He has two Q's in his name. So I always look up to him, you know. Yeah. Social media. I ran for the Green Party about 6 years ago in the federal elections. Not because I thought I was going to win, simply because I wanted to make a statement, you know, to encourage other people to run against the establishment, seeing that I'm a social activist, economic activist. And I wish I had Twitter at that time, because I would have had a tool that is so effective, and I participated in all the social media that Christina showed you on the board when she first spoke, or somebody did, yeah. Because Twitter has one function, and that is it levels the playing field. So anybody who does not have any funding and who is now running against some multimillionaire can be just as effective on Twitter as the multimillionaire. And that is why it's important, and it is so vital for democracy, so that those people who have that financial advantage do not use it. They can win on their own merits, sure, but they should not be winning because they have $1 million and I only have a war chest of $5,000. And that's very important. I won't say any more about social media, because I have about 2,000 people on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on. There is some overlap, I admit, but it is very important, very crucial for my work as an author. I have spread the word about my books all over the world. Let me talk about the issue of how do characters in contemporary fiction reflect and define the representation of the modern man. What are the most representative, ideal characters in modern fiction? I think any story that captures your imagination, a book that you cannot put down, will have to absolutely have peaks of excitement going throughout the length of the book. And those of you who are fans of movies know that throughout a movie that lasts, say, for a couple of hours, during those 120 minutes or so, there's virtually one kind of disaster or near disaster every 10 minutes. So next time you go to the movie, I want you just to keep that in mind and see how every 10 minutes or so there is a problem that the hero or the heroine, we call them the protagonist and the antagonist and so on, goes through, and is almost going to be captured, or almost going to be killed, or almost going to be raped, and suddenly it is solved, but only temporarily. And so it goes on for another 10 minutes, and you'll see there's another little problem creeping up, and then building up, and builds attention for you. until, again, the character somehow escapes. And in the last kind of 10 minutes or so, there is a resolution of the problem. And so all these fantastic stories that we have read as children and teenagers and so on, you'll find that they're, nearly always like that. And these characters, that is very important, is that they have to represent characteristics that you as the reader either admire or loathe. And so that, obviously, the protagonist is the person who's the hero, who's kind of almost faultless, but the protagonist should never be completely faultless, otherwise it becomes boring. He has to, he can be very brave, and he can be very wise, but he has to also be drink too much, or he has to be flirtatious. You have to give him some kind of character that is slightly negative, or at least does not keep his page completely white. And again, with the antagonist, the good books actually show, I think, from what I remember, even the baddies in the movie or in the book tend also to have a little bit of good qualities from time to time. So that keeps the story going. One of our previous speakers said that the average reader likes to read about foreign countries. I think it was you, Christina, who said that. Yes, yeah, and that's very true. So, is it an advantage to have that background? I think, in my case, it is very much an advantage in the sense that if the book that I'm writing is about the country from which I came, even though I write it in English, then it is crucial. Because I think if you live that life, if you were brought up in that country, that you would know the nuances of how people think over there. And then with your new ability and with your new language, if you can express it well, then you can allow the new reader in English to understand the people of that culture. And in my book, in all my three books, there is always this contrasting between the Middle Eastern, Arabic, primarily Muslim culture with the Western culture of Canada, but also of United Kingdom, because I graduated in medicine from the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, so I know UK very well. And so one of my stories is about that. And I was able, I think, to contrast the two cultures in a way that makes it interesting for people who read it in English. Is there a problem for a writer like me writing about Yemen or the Middle East and the West, for readers from the Middle East? That's a question. I think there is a problem, partly because the book is written in English, but the books are all written in English. But even if they are translatable, there are two problems. One is that I actually started translating one of them on demand, because people back in the Middle East asked me to do that. One is that when you translate a book from English to Arabic, you have a dilemma, because spoken Arabic is nothing like written Arabic. So written Arabic that you read in any newspaper from anywhere in the world doesn't matter whether it's from Morocco or Yemen or from Egypt. It's exactly the same. It's called classical Arabic. But spoken Arabic in Egypt is quite different from that in Iraq, from Morocco, and, Saudi Arabia, and so on. So what do you write it in? That's the problem. If you write it in Egyptian Arabic, the other people will not quite like it. They might not read it. If you write it in classical Arabic, it is then kind of a bit too stiff, because people don't talk like that. If I speak to Michael in Arabic, it will not be classical Arabic. It will be quite different. So that's one problem. The other is that people who are over there might find what I express as someone who lives in the West, who has been very kind of westernized, to be rather offensive. Because in my novels I talk about things that are taboo or virtually taboo in my books, such as rape, such as marital infidelity, such as married women having lovers. And of course that is, at least officially, in that culture, is not allowed. All right, that's good. So, actually, I've finished this book, except for one thing, to demonstrate what I said. I'll show you. I'll read 2 pages from this book here, and that will take about 4 minutes, I think. Yeah. So this is a scene of a man of Yemeni origin who went to England, married a young girl, the girl of the landlord. He stayed with them, got her pregnant, and he then had to marry her, but only after he extracted a big gift in the shape of a house from her father, who wanted to bury the scandal. And then after they got married, he was very cruel to her and used to beat her. And at the same time, to go with other women and so on. So this is a stage when this girl, Biddy, his wife, was being beaten, and his girlfriend is Jill, and Biddy, the wife, she has a policeman who has fallen in love with her. Okay, and the cultural differences will be apparent now. So the policeman is called Sergeant Dooley, and the guy is a law student. Sergeant Dooley followed Hassan to the Resto Bar, a restaurant near the law school, where Hassan often went, and where he had just ordered some vegetarian pizza, because he never trusted that the meat was completely free of pork. The waitress put the food in front of him, together with a drink of lemonade. He was eating alone, which for him was the rule rather than the exception. David Dooley took the table immediately next to Hassan's, the latter being right in the corner of the room. "Not very busy today," David started. "No. My first time here. Do you come here regularly?" "No, not really." "How's the food here?" "Okay, I suppose." "There's nothing like home cooking, if you ask me." "True." "Do you have someone that cooks for you? A wife, I mean." "No." "I take it you don't like questions." "I'm usually the one who asks questions." "Really? How's that?" "I'm a lawyer." "Oh, really? That's wonderful. You're so young. But I should have guessed, this restaurant being near the law inns and all that. Are you a barrister or a solicitor?" "Well, actually, I'm still a student, a senior student." "So, you know a lot about the law." Yes, I take my final exams in a couple of months. Great. So what's the punishment in English law for assault and battery of a wife? Hassan's knife fell out of his right hand, making a loud clang against his plate and causing some of the restaurant customers to turn their heads towards him. Why on earth would you ask me such a question? You have to consult a licensed barrister. I thought you might know the answer, Hassan. Hassan looked absolutely ashen with fear when he heard his name and started sweating profusely. His mouth became so dry he could not swallow the morsel of pizza. It occurred to him that the man was Biddy's brother, Albert, whom he had not met, just back from the United States, and that he was there to beat him up, just like a Yemeni brother might do to defend the honor of an abused sister. Are you Albert? Oh, allow me to introduce myself, Sergeant David Dooley. David said, stretching his big muscular forearm and fleshy hand, which Hassan would not shake. Why did you follow me here? I will report you. This would be premeditated assault. Sorry, I omitted to say that I am in civilian clothing, and I am not here in that capacity. But you are in the capacity of a man trying to seduce a married woman. Even if it was true, under which section of the Penal Code of England is that a crime? Back in my country, you would be severely beaten, or worse, by her husband and brothers. But I'm not in your country. You are in mine. And the punishment for willful assault and battery, if proven, especially against a defenseless woman, is quite severe. Check the code. I'm glad you said if proven. I did no such thing. I know the law. Well, in that case, you have nothing to worry about. So I'll just stop there to just give you a sample of the conflict and how cultures enter very much into a conversation at that time. And this is from this book here.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions, comments, okay.
So what happened to Hassan?
You will have to invest in $15 to buy the book.
Besides that, I mean,
You're writing for the Huffington Post, and you're writing for other periodicals. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What you write about? What you like to read? Just
Yes.
a tiny snippet.
Yes. Well, I write about social justice, economic justice, politics. I criticize all the Arab despots that we have all over the world, sometimes probably endangering myself if I travel back to that area. It's what I mostly write about, yes. Well, politics.
You enjoy that? You enjoy having this
Well,
conversation?
enjoy. I feel that's my duty to do that, partly, yes. And then after, I only started enjoying it after I recognized that there is actually an audience for what I wrote. But when I first started, I was just experimenting, quite timid. And then I was, to my enormous surprise, I had a following both there and also on the internet.